Well, let's talk about the big talking point in the race, the deciding moment, which was Oscar Piastri's penalty. A question has come in. Was the 10-second penalty too harsh? I believe it was far too harsh for Oscar. But let's have a look at the incident here. We've got the safety car still with its lights coming on onto the hangar straight. So as we play this forward, you can see now the race leader coming in behind. We've still got the safety car with its lights on. So this means that Oscar has to stay within 10 car lengths of the safety car at this point. He's not in control of his own pace. He has to be governed by the safety car. The safety car lights are about to go off now as Oscar's accelerating. So there we go. Safety car finally is lights off. Now Oscar hits the brakes and Max just comes around the side of him. The rest of the field start to line up behind now, and Oscar's just trying to give the safety car enough of a berth so that when he goes, he's not going to accelerate in a Formula One car a lot quicker than the safety car and end up overtaking the safety car, or having to back off to avoid overtaking the safety car, which would be a pretty bad infringement as well, because once you go, you're not supposed to then back off. So here, he's seen the safety car lights go off, he's hit the brakes and slowed it up. And for that, he's got a 10-second penalty, which I think is extreme to say the least. We're back into to normal routine now. The rest of the field all concertinaing up. And now Oscar goes for the safety car restart. And it's such an innocuous moment in this Grand Prix. So I think it's an extremely harsh penalty here on Oscar. Now, there are parallels that can be drawn, obviously, with the Verstappen-Russell incident in Montreal, but it's really not very similar. So let's have a look, first of all, on board with Max in Canada. We got George just ahead. The race finished under safety car. Safety car lights are still on here. Max gets very close to the back of George. George hits the brakes. Max locks up, trying to not go ahead of George, but he's never going to hit the back of George because he's right alongside him. And then they fall back into position. So the stewards didn't look at that. Red Bull appealed it, and the appeal was thrown out. It was an absolute nothing moment. And I think that was the right decision at the time. So let's have a look at how that played out with Max on board in Silverstone as well. Different situation. So I think it's really hard to compare the two because you've got a really small gap between Max and George in Canada. Safety car lights are on. It's a break from George, but not within the bounds of what's usual. And bearing in mind all the drivers here are trying to get tyre temperature in as well. So they're bound to be braking. It's the best way of getting energy through your tyres and getting a bit of temperature in. So here we've got Max with a little bit of spray in these conditions, with a bit of a bigger gap to Oscar, who accelerates now. Max can see the safety car still there, so he knows this is not going to be a safety car restart from Oscar here. And then we get the break. Max sort of coasts to the right-hand side of him, slows up the car, and falls back into line. So again, it looks like a bit of an innocuous moment. There's no advantage gained here by Oscar, and now he's bunching up the field because he needs to get that gap to the safety car and wants to just make sure that that's absolutely done. So if we rewind it back here, you can see once again, I don't think Max is ever going to hit the back of Oscar at this point. Oscar has hit the brakes pretty hard. He has slowed down 100 miles per hour of speed, and it's a lot for this sort of time. But Max here doesn't brake particularly hard. I think he could see it quite a long way in advance and just chooses to go round. There's no sign of a lockup. We're nowhere near a lockup with Max. So, he's not on the limit of braking to try and stay behind. And the proof of that is in the data here, where we can see moment here for the penalty, where Oscar in the blue hits the brakes, Max behind him hits the brakes in the red. And you can see Oscar's brake trace down here. The blue peaks up and comes back down. Max doesn't brake quite as hard as Oscar. The brakes stay on for a while, and he has to go around the McLaren, but he's not on the limit of the brakes to try and avoid a collision. He's just choosing to go round him, and Oscar doesn't deviate his line either. Compare that to a few corners before, and you've got coming into Maggots, a similar thing. Oscar hits the brakes hard on the straight. He's behind the safety car still, but this time Max manages to copy the braking trace of the McLaren ahead, and it's very similar to the moment on the hangar straight. So here, Max is braking a bit harder behind the McLaren. So he's got that capability. He just doesn't use it at the time. And it's fine for Max because I don't think he's done anything particularly wrong here either. I'm not saying he should, but he has the option to brake harder to avoid to having to go around the McLaren if he wants to. But, it's under control. He goes around the McLaren. It's, not the most comfortable moment for him, but it's not a big disaster either. And I don't think this is a massive evading incident for Verstappen. But really, this safety car rule is in place because what you don't want to have is drivers behind thinking it's go time, everyone building up the speed, then you get someone in the mid-pack or further back who's not ready for the slowdown, and then you can get a big incident. We've seen that before in Mugello. So we've got 2020 here, safety car restart, the Mercedes at the front doing their thing, but further back, there's been big gaps left and people going and slowing. So you get this big whack somewhere in the mid-pack as drivers further back are just caught out. And this is your safety concern with drivers driving erratically in these conditions. So here we go. We can go on board with Giovinazzi there, who's had a big whack. And you can see he's thinking it's go time, tuck in behind the Williams. Then suddenly further ahead, no way, it's not go time. They're all still crawling, as we saw at the front of the field. So that's what we want to avoid, really. It's not necessarily about the driver in second overtaking the driver in first. It's about making sure that the pack don't start to build up, because that's your major safety concern. But if we look at it on board with George Russell here, he's 8th. He is plumb in the mid-pack of 16 cars. And you can see the field start to accelerate. The safety car's only just switched its lights off at this point. So the restart now just comes to George in the radio saying it's going to be coming in this lap. You can see the safety car still coming through Stowe. George can see ahead, and it's very, very calm in the mid-pack on this occasion here. And if we go further back to the back of the field, we've got a bit more spray, and we can jump on board with Esteban Ocon, who's the final car in the Crocodile at this moment. And again, the speed builds up slightly as Oscar accelerates, but we're in the realm of everyone trying to find a bit of tyre temp. Now he knows that the safety car's coming in, and Esteban can see the cars ahead still through the spray. It just joins the back of the snake, and now we're going to get racing. So this is a far cry from the dangerous situation that we had in Mugello, where there was much bigger space, and it was later on, up to the start-finish line. This is within seconds of the safety car lights coming off. The drivers have only just been notified that the safety car's coming in. If this was further around the corner, if it was after Stowe, if it was coming through, flat out through Club, it would be a bit of a different scenario. But this is just Oscar trying to get back and control the speed. So personally, I'm very surprised that the stewards decided to intervene on what was a really innocuous moment, with no ill intent, I don't think, from Oscar. I don't think he's trying to jeopardise anyone behind. I think he's just trying to collect the field and compose himself for a safety car restart, with trying to get a bit of tyre temperature in and hitting the brakes. There's also no material advantage for Piastri either here. It's not like a sort of cutting the corner, gaining an advantage. It's not like forcing a driver off. You know, this is just a driver trying to control a restart, and it's subjective fundamentally as well. Driving erratically is subjective. It's not like crossing a white line. It's not like speeding in the pit lane. This is the steward's discretion here, and I don't think anyone would have been fast if there was no penalty for the race leader that has done a good job and had a very, very innocuous moment that really didn't need to be much. And the reason it's subjective is proven out really in the data. Here we have the 3 laps that Oscar does under this set of safety cars. So we've got lap 19, 20, and the in-lap for the safety car on 21. Now you can see coming down into Stowe, lap 21, we have a big deceleration on that straight. But every lap, we have a deceleration at the same point from Oscar. And in fact, lap 19, he's braking very, very similarly to how he does in the end on lap 21, just from a higher speed. But the deceleration is the same. The brake hit is more or less the same on the green trace as it is the blue trace. But of course, on lap 21, he's trying to slow down a bit more because he needs the safety car to go. And it's a very late call for the safety car to come in. So you don't have a huge amount of time to scrub off that 100 miles per hour, which you basically need to scrub off to ensure that you give the safety car time to go. So it's just about how you do that. And the stewards obviously deemed that the braking was too aggressive, but they didn't deem it was too aggressive when he did the same thing 4 laps earlier. So this is the previous safety car, where you can see Oscar in the blue versus Oscar in the red on the penalised lap. And the braking is very similar. The speeds are very similar. The part of the track is very similar. But on the blue, there was no issue for the stewards. They didn't step in with a penalty. They didn't even warn the McLaren driver of the race lead. And bearing in mind there was a safety car just a lap later, that might have been a good idea if they thought this was a major safety issue. But they didn't. Second time he did it, it was a penalty. And that is why Oscar was pretty perturbed by it. It's a race win-loss for him. And with the championship at stake as well between himself and Lando, it's some critical points as well. So I can feel his pain. I think this is incredibly harsh on Oscar for what was a really innocuous moment. And I can't remember a penalty being given for this incident before as well in the past. So a tough one, no doubt, for Oscar Piastri. Great news if you're Lando Norris. You're getting a Grand Prix victory at Silverstone, your home race. And for McLaren, they probably didn't mind too much either because they've got a 1-2. They've still got the big points. But for Oscar, this one's going to hurt.
Yeah, I thought the penalty was pretty bad. But anyway, I'm glad we had a quick car today. showed what I needed to prove, and yeah, just disappointing when the result you deserve gets taken from you, but that's how it goes sometimes.